نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So we were discussing uh, we were doing the riwayat of we started the main riwayat, what we told you forms the basis of this whole chapter of Mi'raj. The first riwayat was the most strong, authentic riwayat, was the most clear riwayat, and we covered quite a few aspects in that riwayat to the Mi'raj. So you ask the question, why then did the author bring other riwayat as well, if that was the most authentic riwayat? As we go through this new riwayat, you'll see there's bits of information in the new riwayat that is not in the previous riwayat. So we learn something extra. Are you with me? So we learn some. So we stop from here. وقال في السماء الثالثة. Right. So فقال جبرائيل اخترت الفطرة, that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was given the choice between the milk and the wine, and then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam chose the milk. So milk is representative of fitra, something which is natural, something which is in harmony with the human disposition, etc. Carry on from there. Yeah, from there. Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ثم أرج بنا ثم أرج بنا إلى السماء. Right. وساق. Okay, we done that part. So we'll do it again. Then I was made to ascend. Urija araja means to ascend. Bina, I tell you, like ja'abi, to take somebody. We were made to go to the skies. Wasaqa misla ma'nahu. And in this hadith got very similar to what was in the previous hadith. That's why the author won't bring the whole thing again. Just you can make reference to قال فإذا أنا بآدم. Then all of a sudden it goes to the hadith, jumps to where we are on the seventh heaven. فرحب بي, he welcomed me. ودعا لي بخير, and he made dua for me with goodness. Carry on. Right. But remember, I told you that the benefit of bringing the other hadith is that we get certain bits of information that is not in that hadith. So maybe this Rawi here, he heard something or he remembers something the other Rawi never heard. Or maybe he heard the same hadith on a different occasion, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam on a different occasion, he mentioned something else which he never mentioned previously. Right. See, there's a bit of fresh information we got. So he says, on the third heaven, فَإِذَا أَنَا بِيُوسُفَ, I was by Yusuf alayhi salam, right? إِذْ هُوَ قَدْ أُعْطِيَ شَطْرُ الْحُسْنِ, and he, Yusuf alayhi salam, he was given shatar, normally translated as half, right? Sorry, shatar, it means a big portion. So that's a literal translation, but sometimes it also comes in the meaning of half. So he's saying, I met Yusuf alayhi salam, and he was given half of all beauty. Inshallah, when we do the explanation of the hadith, we'll discuss this more. But what is meant by this, that, there's a hadith that says that Allah Ta'ala has distributed 100th of His mercy between His creation. So whatever mercy you see, mother showing to a child, teacher showing to a student, husband showing to his wife, etc. If you add all of that up from the beginning of creation till the end of creation, that only constitutes 100th of the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala has kept back 99 portions that He will show on His makhluk, on His creation, on the day of Qiyamah. But that also, ulama explained, that is only a way of expressing things. Other than that, Allah Ta'ala's mercy is even more than that. The same thing here, something similar, that Allah Ta'ala has given half of all the beauty to Yusuf alayhi salam, and the other half of whatever beauty you see in insan or haywan or any other makhluk, that is the other half. So in other words, if you put his beauty on one side of the scale, his handsomeness, etc., then it will equal to half of all the rest of the makhluk's handsome. In other words, that shows you how handsome. And inshallah, when we do the explanation, I'll give you a bit more about that. Inshallah, carry on. فرحب بي. You read it? You don't read it? Okay. فرحب بي. And Yusuf alayhi salam welcomed me right to the heavens. وَدَعَا لِي بِخَيْرٍ. And he made dua for me with goodness. Right? And in this riwayat, وَلَمْ يَذْكُرُ بُكَاءَ Musa. He did not mention the crying of Musa alayhi salam. Remember we said Musa alayhi salam said, this young man, came after me and he's got such a bigger following, and we gave some explanation. Was just emotional that he done so well, etc. So maybe when Nabi also mentioned this hadith, he didn't mention this, or maybe even the Rawi was narrating here, he maybe thought it not important or forgot it, whatever. Carry on. Right. Right. وقال في السماء السابعة. Then Nabi Sallam said with regards to the seventh heaven, فإذا أنا بإبراهيم, that in the seventh heaven I found myself in the presence of our father Ibrahim, mus musnidan. You got mustanid or musnidan? Musnidan ظهره إلى البيت المعموري, while he was relaxing, or you can say he's taking support from the Bayt al-Ma'mur, right? Then it says وإذ هو يدخله كل يوم. كل يوم is a ظرف, that's why it is منسوب, right? And every day وإذ يدخل every day 70,000 ملك, 70,000 angels entered, right? لا يعودون إلى, and they not return to it. So yeah, the Bayt al-Ma'mur is also like a type of it's a Kaaba, which is in line with the Kaaba of the dunya. So this is the Kaaba of the angels. So here, imagine he's saying from the time it has been created, how many thousands, million years ago, every single day, 70,000 angels afforded the opportunity of making tawaf of this Baytul Ma'mur. And so this hadith is saying that the angels are so plentiful, they're so abundant that they will never get a chance to come again, right? Because it's so full there, right? So from that you can understand the amount of angels Allah Ta'ala has created, right? Carry on. Right. ثم ذهب بي إلى السدرة المنتهى. Then actually ذهبي means to take. He took me to the Sidratul Muntaha. We told you Sidra referred to the tree, and Muntaha means the end point. Yeah, what is mean by end point? That every creation of Allah Ta'ala that is on this side, it cannot go beyond to that side. And every creation of Allah Ta'ala, it is beyond the Sidratul Muntaha, they cannot come to this side, right? So that's we're saying. Um, right. ثم ذهب بي إلى سدرة المنتهى فإذا, what you got after فإذا, the mind's a bit smudged, you got? Yeah. فإذا ورقها كآذان الفيل. And normally إذا is used like to show surprise, to show astonishment, to show suddenness, right? Then this beautiful tree that I saw, right? فإذا right فإذا فيها, right? فإذا ورقها, its leaves were as huge as the ears of elephants. وإذا ثمرها كالقلال, and its fruit, kilar refer to like a big pot or something like that, like how we say, deg, right? So, and its fruit were like huge deg, so to say, like big pot. So what he's saying here in the Shara is also mentioned that the Sidratul Muntaha, and in English you call it the lot. I'm not sure if it's Lote, lot or lut tree. It is one of the most beautiful and magnificent creations of Allah Ta'ala. Extremely beautiful tree that separate was a separation point between the heavens and what is beyond that, right? Carry on. Yeah. فلما غشي من أمر الله ما غشي تغيرت. Then when it covered it, what covered it? From right من أمر from the command of Allah Ta'ala. So min here is bayaniya, which becomes like the file. So when it covered it, what covered it from the command of Allah Ta'ala? Allah gave it some command, whatever. تغيرت. Like a command came from Allah Ta'ala to the tree. فَمَا أَحَدٌ مِّنْ خَلْقِ اللَّهِ يَسْتَطِيعُ أَن يَنْعَتَهَا مِنْ حُسْنِهَا. Subhanallah. So he's saying that this tree was so beautiful, so beautiful. There is none from the creation of Allah Ta'ala that is able to do justice. I'm paraphrasing there. Na'ata in explaining it min husniha as a result of its beauty. Carry on. Right. وَأَوْحَى إِلَيَّ مَا أَوْحَى. Then he revealed to me what he revealed. Now, is this interesting? There's no reference here. Maybe it will come on later. But remember, we discussed this in detail. We discussed this in detail in Aqidat al-Tahawiyah and the Shara' Asil al-Samawiyah. Did Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam see Allah or not? Can you remember the discussion, Luqman? So remember, we say just briefly again, for the benefit of those who are not with us in those discussions, we say, لا تدركه الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار. It is not humanly possible to see Allah Ta'ala in a wakeful state for any human being, right? In the dunya. There's ittifaq amongst all the ulama. You cannot see Allah Ta'ala in this dunya, right? First thing. Second thing, yes, you can see Allah Ta'ala in a dream. That our ulama accept. Number two. Number three, we, the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, believe you will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Akhirat. And that will be one of the greatest bounties and boons and blessings, right? We done it was also in Mishkaat Shareef for the benefit of those who are not with us all along. And we say that was the greatest, whole chapter of that Mishkaat Shareef, that will be one of the greatest favors of Allah Ta'ala on His makhluk. And it will happen on a Friday. And that was one of the greatest favors because insan will be blown away with the sight of Allah Ta'ala, right? That's the third point. Then the fourth point, which I want to discuss with you here, is this here, that did Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam see Allah on the Mi'raj? There's some ikhtilaf. Remember we discussed this. Some ulama say no, he spoke to Allah Ta'ala without seeing him. Some ulama say he saw him. So uh, So this verse, if you look up, if you want more explanation on this, you must check in the tafsir. ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى. ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى. And the nice كذب means to lie, but in this context, the heart did not make a mistake when it saw what it saw, right? So I told you, some ulama say that means it saw Allah Ta'ala, and they say that the prohibition or the impossibility of seeing Allah Ta'ala in the dunya is not applicable because here Nabi Sallallahu was not in the dunya, right? I'm just giving a detailed discussion now, briefly. Just some ulama say, like Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala, they say no, if you never see Allah Ta'ala, yeah, this ma kazab al fu'adu ma ra'a, you speak about seeing Jibra'il Amin, right? Anyway, carry on. So I gave you that brief discussion. If you want more detail of that, remember the Shara of Mufti Raza ul Haq أصيل السماوية. It's in Arabic and it's the Urdu of Aqid al-Tahwiyah. We've got a detailed discussion if anybody wants more on that. Carry on, right? Right. فَفَرَضَ عَلَيَّ 50 صَلَاةً في كل يوم وليلة. So then, this discussion we passed also in the previous hadith, that Allah Ta'ala made compulsory, He mandated upon me 50 salat every day and every night. Carry on. So, so the same thing here. Now you can repeat what we discussed in the previous hadith. That then when he came to Musa alayhi salam, and Musa said, "Look here, I jarrabtul qawm. I've got experience with this insan, and they are weak. What is the verse? خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Man has been created weak. You're gonna you're going to battle to inspire him. You're going to struggle to inspire him to read this 50 salat. It's going to be an uphill battle. I suggest you rather go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you ask him from some type of concession. Then I told you that certain riwayat, it speaks about concession of 5 salah at a time. Some riwayat speaks about the concession of 10 at a time. Certain speak about just just a portion, no contradiction. Sometimes there is what we term as riwayat bil ma'na. The narrators are just narrating the understood meaning. So, okay, carry on. Yeah, so Musa says, Ma farada rabbuka ala ummatik. Tell me, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, now what did your Rabb make compulsory upon your ummah? You went to meet him, right? So, 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 so this from this hadith, you also learn something interesting. That see, Allah Ta'ala called the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam all the way to the heavens. Why? To give him or to gift him the gift of salat. To gift him the gift of salat. As a Muslim, we must consider the salat as a gift, something that gives us peace, something that gives us tranquility. When we are stressed, that's why it comes in a hadith also, something like this. Yet also that's famous in Bazalama. إِذَا حَزَبَهُ أَمْرٌ فَزِئَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ. When something would vex Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, something would trouble him, when he would be anxious, etc. فَزِئَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ. He would hasten towards salah. Then also, there isn't, when the time of salah would come, you say, أَرِحْنَا يَا بِلَال, أَرِحْنَا يَا بِلَال. Give us some comfort, O Bilal. Give us some comfort. How much he give us comfort? By calling out the adhan. So, putting this together here, that whenever Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was anxious, إِذَا هَزَبَ وَعَمْرٌ فَزِعَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ. And he said, أَرِحْنَا إِلَى يَا Bilal. And this year that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or rather Allah Ta'ala called Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam all the way to the heavens to give him this gift of salah. We understand that salah it is not a burden. It should not be a burden. It should be done happily. Oh no, salah time again. It's so cold. I have to take off my jacket. I have to take off my socks. You should be considered as a blessing, as a boon, as a pleasure to stand in front of your Rabb and communicate with him. Right? Carry on. Yeah, so Musa alayhi salam said, Irji ila rabbika fas'alhu takhfif. Go back to your Rabb and ask him for some concession. Why? Yeah, no, your ummah, I'm telling you, I've got experience. In the ummataka la tutiku zalika. They will not manage that. Taqa yatiqu. Right, they will not have the power. Tawqa also, right? Carry on. Yeah. فإني بلوت بلا يبلو. You can say, I tested the Bani Israel وخبرتهم, and I got experience for them. They will, it's going to be difficult. This is going to be a uphill battle for you, right? So, right, I went back to my Rabb. فقلت يا ربي خفف. فعل يفعل. خفف على أمتي. Make it easier for my ummah. فحط يحط means to drop off, to cut off. See? Discount, good word, just right, mashallah. فحط عني خمسا, good, nice translation. Then he discounted for me 5, right? So فرجعت إلى موسى فقلت حط عني. I went to Musa and he said, look, Allah Ta'ala discounted, he reduced 5. خمس قال إن أمتك لا تطيع ذلك. Your ummah won't manage it. Right, فرجع إلى ربك. Go back to him. فاسأل التخفيف. Ask him for a further reduction. قال فلم أزل. So now, briefly, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Zala yazalu means to stop. Lam azal, not to stop. Not to stop, continue. Falam azal arji'u. I continued returning. Bayna Rabbi, between my Rabb. Wa bayna Musa, and between Musa. Hatta qala ya Muhammad. Until Allah Ta'ala said, oh Muhammad. So look here, this is also the mercy of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that he had the courage to go and face. Sometimes somebody requests to do something and you have to go to the teacher, go to the principal, tell him please that we don't want madrasa tomorrow, very, very cold, whatever. But he doesn't want to do it, he feels shy. But what he do it because he wants to further the interest of this person requesting him. So here Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was furthering our interest, he was doing it for our sake, right? So another one of the great favors of Nabi Sallallahu upon us, another more reason to appreciate him, another greater reason to follow his sunnah, another reason to love him, another reason to recite more durood and salam upon him, right? So فلم أزل أرجو بين ربي وبين موسى حتى قال يا محمد. I said, oh Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم إنهن خمس صلوات كل يوم وليلة. That, oh, right, it is 5 salats now, right? In every day and night. لكل صلاة عشر. But for every salah, you get 10 times the reward. And this is from the Quran. من جاء بالحسنة فله عشر أمثالها. Whoever does one good deed, he will get 10 times the reward. فذلك خمسون صلاة. So that is 50 salat, right? Then in another interesting favor, that another gift that this you done also in the beginning of Mishkaat Shareef. If you haven't done it, you done it, you'll do it, Manazir. من هم بحسنة فلم يعملها كتبت له حسنة. That if you intend to do a good deed, so sometimes you have an intention, I want to do this good deed, I want to give this charity, I want to give this money to the people of Gaza, I want to send this money, I want to give, provide water, I want to provide, I want to give, I want to do this favor to this person here, etc. But you don't get around doing whatever reason, you got sick or you passed away, whatever, right? So man hamma bi hasan falam ya'malha, but he never do it, right? Kutibat lahu hasanatun. So merely, purely upon his intention, he will get the reward. فَإِنْ أَمِلَهَا. And then, if he eventually gets around to doing it, right, كُتِبَتْ لَهُ عَشْرًا, subhanallah, then he will get what? 10 times the reward. So subhanallah, how merciful is this? Isn't this a great favor that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that by just intending to do the good thing, you will get what? One reward. And then by doing, actually executing it, you will get 10 rewards. Then see, وَمَنْ هَمَّ بِسَيِّئَةٍ فَلَمْ يَعْمَلْهَا لَمْ تُكْتَبْ لَهُ شَيْئًا. Whoever intends to do a bad thing, you want to, right? You want to check is the right page, so right? وَمَنْ هَمَّ بِسَيِّئَةٍ, and he does not do it, لَمْ تُكْتَبْ لَهُ عَشْرٌ لَمْ تُكْتَبْ لَهُ, nothing will be recorded against him. This you done in the beginning of Mishkaat Shareef. One is where you have intention to do something right, then there will be no punishment for that. But one is zam. Zam is where you have firmly resoluted. There's a discussion, the different types of thoughts, the different type of determinations, azam, ham, etc., etc. But I'll just give you the relevant portion here. One is if you are this year that you got a thought that you want to do something wrong, that is forgiven. But the Umar explains where you are so firm and resolute, you want to do something wrong, you got firm intention, but just circumstances didn't allow you. Like for example, you had firm resolution that you're going to steal something, right? But when you came there, the thing was not there. Then that one you will get punishment for that one, right? But this is just the thought, look, I'm going to steal this, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to drink this haram thing, or I'm going to commit this zina, or whatever, right? And that's not the firm resolution. Here is more the firm resolution. Nothing stops you from doing it except the circumstances, right? Then that one you will get punishment from. But just the intention to do something bad, you will not be rewarded. But I mean, not be punished. But just the intention to do something good, you will be rewarded, right? So I hope that's clear. Right? وَمَنْ هَمَّ بِسَيِّئَةٍ. So this refers to not the absolute certain determination. It's just that you had a thought, right? فَلَمْ يَعْمَلْهَا. He did not do it. لَمْ تُكْتَبْ لَهُ شَيْئًا. Right? Nothing will be recorded against him. Right? فَإِنْ أَمِلَهَا. And again, look at the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. If he does this deed eventually, كُتِبَتْ لَهُ سَيِّئَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. Only one bad deed will be recorded in his account, right? قال فنزلت حتى انتهيت إلى موسى. Then I came down, right, we descended from the heavens and went to Musa alayhi salam. فأخبرته, and I informed him. فقال ارجع إلى ربك. Look, I'm telling you, I know even 5 salat, they won't manage it. فاسأله التخفيف. Ask him for a further discount. Ask him for a further reduction. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Then the Rasulullah said, right, فقلت, I said, قد رجعت إلى ربي حتى استحييت منه. That I returned to my Rabb so many times حتى استحييت منه, until I'm now shy to ask further. Like you ask, and eventually, if you've got some shame, some people they got no shame. They'll continue doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. But yeah, Nabi Sallam said, look, I've asked my Rabb several times. I've asked him several times, and now I am shy to ask anymore. Right. So I tell you this riwayat, it got some, alhamdulillah, there's quite a few extra things we learned from this riwayat. It wasn't in the previous riwayat. Quite a few things, alhamdulillah, we benefit from. I told you, araja means for something to ascend. That's why you got the word mi'raj. Mi'raj, right? There's a new Shara of Hidayah been printed for the first time. It's called Mi'rajud Diraya. I was just checking. First time ever printed of Hidayah Sharif, Mi'rajud Diraya. Anyway, so araja, like how you say, ja'a bi, ata bi, means to, like, to come, ata, to bring. So araja bi or urja bi, we are made to ascend. So this is interesting. Just listen to this here. This is the preferred explanation, that the journey from Makkatul Mukarrama till Masjidul Aqsa al Mubarak, right, was with the Burak, right? That was with the Burak. And I mentioned to you that from Masjidul Aqsa up to the heavens, here, like in simple words, we can say, like today it's easy for us to understand. It was like you can say an escalator. Yeah, the ought even say like an automated lift or something that would lift. Just come to my mind also to remember, if you look at the construction of the Kaaba, when if you look at Ibrahim and Ismail, you see the Kaaba, how high the Kaaba is. You wonder how is it possible that they built such a high building. They also, Allah Ta'ala, created like a something like a hoverboard type of a thing by which they were able to construct it. So remember that the Burak was from Masjidul Haram till Masjidul Aqsa al Mubarakah, and from there Allah Ta'ala created a lift, like a escalator, trescalator, or a cable car, whatever, right? Then I was telling you, Shatrul Husn. Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam was famed and fabled for his beauty. Now, just we discussed this several times before, but I will discuss it again with you. We have a lot of people that were not with us before. Wherever in the hadith you see a virtue that is mentioned for a prophet, and it appears outwardly that the Prophet excels our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in this aspect. There's two approaches. Ne? Remember, Ismail? There's two approaches. One approach is this here. You say, I told you, al fazilatul juz'iyatu la tastalzimu al fazilatul kulliyah, which means that, because remember, we say that Nabi Sallallahu was the most virtuous, or the best, the holiest, the most beautiful, the more handsome of all the Anbiya alayhimus salatu wa taslim. So through the hadith, you'll find many places where Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam speaks about a particular virtue for a Nabi. So there's two ways you can put, maybe two that I remember. There may be other ways that you can also, this is explain. One is you say, if a Nabi has a particular virtue over Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which Nabi Sallallahu does not have, that does not impact on his overall virtue. There is something like, Musa alayhi salam is the first person that will wake up after the sa'iqah. We done this in Tafsir ibn Kathir. Ibrahim alayhi salam will be the first person who will be clothed on Qiyamah Day, because he was the first person who was made naked for the sake of Allah Ta'ala and was thrown into the fire. So here also, Yusuf alayhi salam, he has half of the beauty. So we say, if we take it in a literal sense, right, then it doesn't impact negatively on Nabi Sallam in any way. If Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam was actually physically or literally more handsome than our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? That's one way of understanding it. So I tell you, al-fazilatul juz'iyatu la tastalzimu al-fazilatul kulliyah. In the other way that ulama explain also, they say, wherever there is a virtue for a Nabi, that is exclusion to our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That is to the exclusion of our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Remember, we discussed this when we done the physical features of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We said that the outstanding feature of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was that all his limbs and his organs were 100% in proportion. And he said, real beauty is when your lips are in proportion to the size of your face. You can have the most beautiful face, but if your lips are slightly too thick, thicker than what it's supposed to be for that face, then you look funny. Your nose needs to be in proportion for your face. If you can have the most handsome face, but if your nose is a bit too flat, or it's a bit too long, then it's out, right? So actual beauty is what we call tanasubul a'ba. You know, the word udhun means lamb, a'ba is the plural. So tanasubul a'ba. And we discussed that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, outstanding was feature was tanasubul a'ba. So we say that despite the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was still more handsome. Remember as Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would come home at night, then she would say that the sun has set, the sun has set, but my sun has risen. What? The sun outside, the solar, it has set, but my sun has risen. And what your husband, what your wife say, the sun has set, but my husband has come home. What you say, my husband has come home. Right? Anyway, so Aisha Siddiqa, remember the famous story that when the ladies of Misr, when they began taunting uh, the wife of the Aziz. We normally refer to her as Zulaykha, but her name wasn't really Zulaykha. We don't know. There's no accurate record of her name. You know, the lady of the Wazir, that lady that Allah Ta'ala speaks about in the Quran, right? So when she was over impressed with Yusuf alayhi salam, and then she wanted to seduce him, but she never get it right, né? So then when the ladies of the town were taunting her, she wanted to show them that you taunting me, but let me show you who's this person I'm talking about. Then she prepared a banquet, etc. Right? Remember? And then she gave them the fruit, and then she invited them and gave them the knives. And when as usual, she adorned him, bedecked him in beautiful, splendid clothes, and she brought them into his presence. That's when he said, "Kulla hasha la ma hadha bashar." This is not a human being. In hadha illa malakun kareem. Right? So then they were so overawed and mesmerized by his beauty, they cut their fingers. So Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu ta'ala says that if the ladies of Yusuf alayhi salam, they cut their fingers because they were enamored with the beauty. They could see my beloved Nabi Sallallahu, you would have cut their hearts out. They would have cut their hearts out. Right out. So anyway, um, so that was just a little bit discussion there about the that if you remember that usul, inshallah, it will help you. Because you'll come all the time. You see many places you see there's a fazilat for a Nabi. Like even like when when somebody referred to Nabi Sallallahu, Ya khair al bashar, oh the best of mankind. Then Nabi Sallallahu said, Zaka Abi Ibrahim. That me, I'm not the best of mankind. My father Ibrahim is the best of mankind. Remember? So same thing there. There's an extra answer also. You can say he done it tawadu'an. He done it out of humility. And then also you can another explanation you can also give, that was before Nabi Sam got the emphatic instruction or the emphatic information from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he was the most virtuous. So remember that we the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we believe Nabi Sallallahu was the best of creation, is the most virtuous after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mentioned to you a while ago there in Durban, Musgrave, they had a scholar from America, Sheikh Sirajul Wahaj in Durban, Musgrave. Apparently a very beautiful masjid there. So he gave a whole Jummah lecture and he tried to prove that Ibrahim alayhi salam was more virtuous than our beloved Nabi Sallallahu. But that is not our position there. Our position is that Nabi Sallallahu was the most virtuous. And I remember subsequent to that, our principal Mufti Ibrahim Salih from Spring Beach, he gave a whole bayan explaining that this is not our position. Our position is that Nabi Sallallahu is the most virtuous. Those hadith where Nabi Sallallahu allude to Ibrahim alayhi salam being more virtuous, it is I told you it is either tawadu or it was prior to that, right? So another explanation some ulama give also here, they say that when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that as Yusuf was given half of the beauty, it could mean he was given half of the beauty of the people of his time. So that would exclude Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Are you with me? there's an interesting thing here, but I told you, these are Israeli riwayat. What are Israeli riwayat? Israeli riwayat are those things that we heard from the Jew and the Jewish and the Christian scholars. It's not in the hadith, right? So I told you, لا نصدقه ولا نكذبه. We won't say it's true and we won't say it's lies. So we can just narrate it for information. We can narrate it for information's sake, right? As long as it doesn't contradict our Sharia. You say, as Yusuf alayhi salam was so handsome, he was so beautiful that that his skin was so bright that he didn't need a mirror. If you want to see his face, he could see his face in his arm. If you just look at his arm. And I told you this is Israeli riwayat. What is Israeli riwayat? Things that narrated from the Jewish and the Christian scholars, right? So لا نصدقه ولا نكذبه. Yeah, and then the Nabi also mentioned in one riwayat, أنا مليح وأخي يوسف صبيح. That I am malih. I thought we discussed this in detail. Malih means pure white, that you see, like you saw ghosts, or like maybe if you live in Europe and you live in Norway or those places where you don't see the sun for many, many months, then you become pale white. You become pale white like you saw a ghost. That is not beautiful. What is beautiful is fair with a tinge of brown, with no, a tinge of redness, right? Wana sabihun. I tell you, sidra refers to that tree. I tell you, L-O-T-E. And muntaha, I tell you the end point. So the creation is on this side, cannot go to that side, and the creation on that side cannot come to this side. Adhanul feel, this is just an expression. Normally, elephant got big ears to show how huge, how beautiful this tree was. Kal qilal, jama killatun. And I told you, like in our we say, big, big dags, right? So it was a very, very beautiful tree with huge leaves. Okay, I see now tonight. We finished that hadith. With a new hadith. We'll start the new hadith tomorrow, inshallah. So, um, the forthcoming hadith, more or less the same message, but as I told you, why the author brings the different hadith, it's just each hadith got a bit of extra information, and whatever information I got and I can remember from Asilu Samawiya, I share that with you as well, inshallah. This now we'll switch over to the tafsir, inshallah. بس سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك الله لا إله إلا أنت